All right, good morning, everybody. We will call the meeting of November 1st of the Downtown Committee to order. And John, could you take the roll?
Absolutely. Committee member Cormier,
Here.
Gupta, Keith,
Here.
Lang.
You're on mute again, but
She's here. All right. Lynn.
Present.
Thank you. Pascal is running late. Sheikh.
Here.
Yen. Baird, Pamela,
Present.
and Kasperzak.
here. Wow, we're getting informal, aren't we, John?
Yes. Try to be more efficient with your time.
All right, we have a quorum. Moving on, item number 3, the minutes approval, and minutes were sent out for the October meeting. Are there any questions, comments, or if not, a motion to approve? All right, David, looks like that was a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And it's seconded by Jamil. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none. And before you take roll, everybody, I know because we have an audience, it's important that we speak up. So try and anticipate and be on verbal so we can actually hear you as opposed to gesture. Okay, the vote.
Sure. Committee member Cormier,
Approved.
Gupta, Keith,
Aye.
Lang, Maria.
Maria, we can't hear you.
Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lynn.
Approved.
Thank you. Pascal. Sheikh.
Approved.
Thank you. Yen.
Approved. Sorry, I was late. Can you
No worries.
update my attendance, please? Thank you.
Vice Chair Baird
Approved.
and Chair Kasperzak.
Hi.
All right, wonderful.
And it sounds like the minutes are approved. So moving on, upcoming agenda items, and you can see on the agenda there was busking and music in downtown, general maintenance and cleanliness, and Castro Bikeway feasibility study. Any details on any of those, John, or anything else?
We'll be tackling busking and music actually in the new year. We aren't going to be able to solve that in this fiscal year. General maintenance and cleanliness, I am hoping to have an update for the committee next meeting. And then as noted in the agenda, the bikeway feasibility is scheduled for February. So if there are additional topics that the committee would like to surface or raise, this would be a great time to provide that feedback.
Any thoughts? Yeah, Marina?
I just wanted to mention, we just recently, my business on Castro Street, we've been struggling with the hot dog stands for a very long time now. And then just this past weekend, we noticed that they're dumping their oil into the storm drain.
Hmm.
And so that's, I think, a huge issue. And if you go right in front of Mervin's right now, that's where they basically stand. If you check the gutter, it is just nasty. I don't know if they're probably clogged by now. We have it on camera and we forwarded it to the fire department. So they're going to investigate. We're going to forward them the videos so they can do something about it. I know the city is very, very careful on how to maintain those storm drains, what can go in there, what cannot go in there, especially not oil. I mean, we all have grease traps in our businesses. So I think that was a huge shock to everybody that we saw. So that's basically what I've noticed as far as cleanliness in downtown.
Matthew, did you have a comment on that?
Yeah, it's just offline, Marina. If you could contact me as well on that, so I can get some of that information as well.
Perfect. I will send you the video as well.
Thank
I
you.
forgot about you. Sorry.
Yeah, and as we know, our storm drains all run directly to the bay. So, and during the Art and Wine Festival, even though everybody has all this nice, clean ice water, we're not allowed to dump that either. It has to go into, you know, storage boxes and gets hauled away as wastewater. So, okay. And Matthew, you still got your hand up. Did you want to say something more, or just behind the times on your Zooming? Okay.
Behind the times.
All right. Next item then is oral communications from the public. And this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on items that are not on the agenda, and the committee cannot, pursuant to state law, address any issues raised during oral communications from the public. With all of that said, we got any members of the public, John?
We do have a member of the public, so at this time, if you'd like to raise your hand or star 6 to alert me, if you'd like to speak on any oral communications. I am not seeing any hands raised at this time.
All right, then seeing no public input, we will close item number 5 and move on to item number 6, which is unfinished business. And starting with updates, item 6.1, downtown development updates. And who's that going to be? Is that Edgar or Maureen?
This will be Edgar going
Edgar.
forward, and Maureen will have the events update.
Great. Okay. Edgar, you're on.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am now filling in, so I'll be in the meetings from now on. Krisha is on to bigger work now these days, so she's probably excited to be working on getting more time to work on her projects. But nonetheless, I do have the update. Let me go ahead and share the screen here. Okay, I think we can see all there. And on the list, if you have it, the changes that happened on the facade improvements were number 9, number 11, and formerly number 12 were removed from the list. And then as far as new improvements coming in and permits that we have on file is one at 800 California Street, which is going to be here at the intersection of California and Castro. It's a new restaurant going in there. The name of that restaurant is Limon. And here is the building. This is where they'll be going into. I do know they submitted building tenant improvements, so I do know those are in with the building division. I'm sure they're still going through the plan check on that component.
Sorry, you said the name of the restaurant really quickly. Can you?
Yeah, the name of the restaurant is Limon,
Oh,
which
yay, lemon.
translates to lemon.
Is that a
And-
franchise?
It's a Peruvian, I think.
I want to say it's probably Latin derived, just given that there's an apostrophe there on the O, so it's Limon.
Yay.
I think it's like a tapa restaurant.
Oh,
Yeah,
There is a place called Limon, Costa Rica.
and another improvement or goal currently submitted is a facade update for 372 Castro, which is this building here where the law offices are located. They're currently under review. And another facade update that we received was at 707 through 737 Villa Street, which is at this corner here in the building here. That's gonna, from what I've seen so far that's been submitted, it looks like they're making some substantial improvements as far as the design and the facade component of the structure. And other than that, there is no other modifications or improvements on here. I do want to share with everyone that the planning division is taking an ordinance today or tomorrow to the Environmental Planning Commission to essentially put a cap on office space in general. This is pursuant to the state regulations that just are looking to kick in at the beginning of the year. And let me get that assembly bill. Essentially, the assembly bill would limit parking to no parking minimums within downtowns. That's AB 2097. And in order to evaluate how this may possibly impact small businesses, how it may possibly impact the job to housing ratio imbalance that we have currently in the city, that is currently being proposed to the Environmental Planning Commission. Again, this will be tomorrow, and that is being done by.
Did Edgar freeze or did he just freeze on my screen? Okay.
He's frozen.
All right. Why don't we move on and see if he rejoins us, and then he can finish up the development update. John, are you doing Castro Street?
I am doing Castro Street. We do have a member of the public though, so if we want to, before going to Castro Street, open it up for public.
Okay,
comment.
sure. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll open up item 6.1 to public input.
There are no hands raised for this item.
Okay. All right, we will postpone 6.1 or table that until Edgar gets back. And in the meantime, John, why don't you give us an update on Castro Street?
Sure. Just some verbal comments for the committee regarding activities around Castro Street. So October 25th, City Council did adopt an ordinance to enact the pedestrian malls. This was basically the final action. Basically, the ordinance becomes effective within 30 days. So effectively, the pedestrian mall is now approved and in place for downtown Castro Street, the 100 through 300 blocks. We will be having the second reading of the Business Improvement Assessment District for November 15th. We've had an initial meeting, which was the noticing meeting in October. So this is the second reading, final adoption for the BIA assessments for 2023. That'll be November 15th. Tonight at City Council, they will be taking an action, this is on consent, to extend the Castro Streets program. Effectively, the Castro Streets program is what actually allows businesses to be operating on the street and in the way you see it today. Because the pedestrian mall was approved, but the functional and design guidelines were not, January, in theory, that means businesses would have to come off the street because the Castro Streets program is set to sunset. But because we did not bring forward yet the functional plan and design guidelines, we're taking this action to keep Castro Streets in place through 2023. And this is just a transition period. So as we evolve into the pedestrian mall, we can bring forward design guidelines and a functional plan that will be approved, which will then replace Castro Streets. So the action is extend Castro Streets for another year. This provides us the opportunity to go through the ad hoc committee process to adopt the design guidelines and functional plan. And then once those are adopted by council, we will rescind the Castro Streets program and we'll have these new guidelines to operate under. So that is the action at council this evening. And then we continue to work on decluttering Castro a little bit. We've met tents going away. We've been working with businesses to pick up some of the items that have either broken or have just lost their luster, if you will. So we're trying to do some cleaning activity. And then I wanted to share with the committee a real quick update on vacancies. I know this is tends to be an important issue that people are concerned about. So I just did a quick inventory this morning, and this is a little small, so let me increase the size. But there is genuine interest in understanding vacancy. So what you're looking at here is a summary table of the basically 9 blocks of Castro Street. So ground floor vacant is just that. These are typically the retail or restaurant spaces. So this is broken down by block, the amount of vacancies within each block. So as you read across, there's the ground floor vacancy. Non-ground floor vacancy is obviously like the 2nd story, 3rd story, or for our larger buildings, the 5th story. And then whether there are actual permits being processed in those vacancies. And then a couple of these businesses are actually in the process of change ownership. So they are vacant, but they will be tenanted. They're in a change of ownership. So what you can see as you look across the blocks and kind of summing across, the actual block that has the greatest vacancy is the 400 block. A lot of people view the 300 block with the most vacancy. The difference is in the 300 block, we have more ground floor, which is kind of street facing vacancies. But in the 400 block, we have the most vacancies actually. And so kind of reading across, you can see vacancy. This is of the spaces, not by buildings. So we've got 6% vacancy in the 100 block, 16% vacancy in the 200, 17, 30% onwards. There's another summary down here just to kind of highlight what's going on. So of the ground floor vacancies, there's 19 vacant units that are basically facing the street that would be retail opportunities. 3 of those are basically going through permit processes, so there are going to be businesses in them. There's 2 of them that are in the process of changing ownership, so those will be tenanted. And there are 2 business leads right now that I'm aware of that are letter of interest in the vacant spots. So once those kind of flush out, if you will, the ground floor vacancies along Castro Street end up being 12, not really 19. And on the non-ground floor vacancies, there's 10. I would like to footnote this because I don't have access to some of the multi-story buildings. There may be subunits within those towers. So 10 is an undercount because there may be, say, a 3rd floor with 12 vacant units in it. I just don't know if there's 1 unit in there or 12. I just captured it as 1 as I don't have the ability to enter the building. So please note that is an underrepresentation of the non-ground floor, recognizing that limitation. So a little bit of background on the vacancy issues in downtown. And that concludes my report on Castro Street update.
Pamela?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last week. I'm still concerned that we're losing retail downtown, and the Jennings Lock Museum building, the Jennings building, that was recently permitted to have the kitchen story, dessert story, and that's one of the few large footprints in terms of potential retail. So I know the owners are probably happy to get a tenant in there, but that was one of the potentially could have been a nice retail space because of the large footprint. So I'm happy on the one part, but I'm concerned that we're losing retail. I don't know what to say other than that's a comment. I don't know if you have any reply, John. And then, of course, we talked about the change in parking requirements also.
Sure. I mean, I guess my quick response to that is, in theory, it is cheaper to be retail because when you are retail, you don't have to pay the parking in lieu fee. So there is an automatic incentive for spaces that are traditionally retail to stay retail. Because if you're going through that change of use process and it has not paid the parking in lieu fee prior, there's a large upfront cost to doing that. Now, keep in mind, any restaurant space can revert back to a retail space, or vice versa. So that is allowed. Yes, it is a big footprint, but there clearly was a market need, and just recognizing a lot of what gets put in these spaces is driven by market dynamics. At the end of the day, it's what a building owner is willing to accept, what kinds of improvements, recognizing there's different rent structures for that, and there's different costs. And so the market's reacting to this. Some of these spaces are not ideal retail footprints because they're very deep, and those don't make necessarily good retail locations. You're correct. Having a wider footprint would make it a more popular retail footprint for that particular building you mentioned, but the market dynamic there wanted to be something different. So
The
that's
age-old
the extent.
problem for downtown Mountain View, restaurants versus retail. And Mountain View has become an Amazon community. I had one quick question, John, on the pedestrian mall. Were there any objections filed?
There were no claims or objections filed,
Okay.
and that was part of the initial October 11th hearing, which allowed council to take action on the 25th.
Right.
So
Okay.
no claims were filed or objections.
Any other comments or questions on John's 6.2 before I open that item up for the public?
I have one question.
Yeah, David.
So John, is the goal, thank you for doing the analysis.
Oh, wait a minute, Mary. John had his, or David had his hand up. So let me call on him and then we'll go to you.
Oh, yeah, it's just a quick logistical question, which is, at this point, there's another reading of the, I guess tonight or tomorrow night. Is it too late for any kind of public input or any kind of registration of a not complaint or concern, whatever you call that, to affect the approval of it? Or is it pretty much we're done and it's approved?
Regarding the pedestrian mall?
Regarding pedestrian mall, yes.
Yes, it's effectively done. There's a 30-day waiting period, but it's effectively done.
Okay, thank you.
Mary?
Hi, John, thanks for doing that analysis with the ground floor retail. My question is around the vacancies for vacancies that are, a long period of vacancy extending, well into the, 5-10 year, whatever. I'm wondering, what is the council's stance on that, or economic development stance? Is it that we are going to hold out for a retail vendor or a restaurant, or at some point we're like, okay, we give up, let's turn it into an office or whatever it is. I was just wondering if there's some threshold, or is that is it the directive from council / economic development that we will leave these spaces vacant, waiting for the right right match?
Well, I can answer. I mean, it's private property. So unless the city changes the zoning or changes the uses for downtown properties, the council has really no say in the matter. They might want retail over a restaurant or a fast food sort of thing, but it's not a public decision.
If I can just add one other element, the chair is correct, but the council does have the ability to change, and Edgar mentioned the precise plan update last meeting. The precise plan is going to be opened up again, and so that is an opportunity to look at the types of uses in downtown. So that is something to be considered. The council also has the ability to implement policies to maybe incentivize property owners to think differently about their properties. And it's the carrots and sticks approach, which is one thing that they have asked us to look at as part of the economic vitality strategy is a vacancy tax or some vacancy registration. So that is a way to kind of force potential property owners to do something. And if you don't do something, there's an implication for not doing anything. But the chair is absolutely correct. It's private property. So it's kind of like me saying, I don't like the color of your house. I really want you to change the color of your house. I have no ability to have you change the color of your house. That's really your decision. So, those are the kinds of things that we run into. As much as people want the city to do something, it is private property.
Marina?
I wanted to ask, do you have all the contacts of all the landlords on Castro Street? Let's say like China, what is it? Is it China Delight? That's been there vacant for almost 2 decades, sitting there. And do we even know if the owner is still alive? In the country? Is he, is there anything that?
The owner is out of country. We do have some basic contact information for all property owners.
Mhm.
The owner is out of country.
Yeah. And that's an interesting built problem because they actually have a building condition that it's unreinforced masonry. And so they have to basically rebuild the building to reopen it. And the land is probably just worth more than the building. And it's a savings account. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the classic examples of, the possible need for some sort of vacancy tax or something like that, which is a term the Chamber of Commerce hates to use. We probably should find a better term than vacancy tax. But anyways, Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment. John was talking a little bit, and I like that analysis. Thank you very much for that, the vacancy ground floor analysis. You were talking about market dynamics, and I think that has a lot to do with the retail space. In commercial real estate, traditionally for retail businesses, the business owner is responsible for fronting the money for the build out, the tenant improvements. And that's not the case in office and industrial. And so maybe the city or our committee looks at, and I don't know, this might not be feasible, but maybe we look at incentivizing or putting together grant programs or funding mechanisms to help incentivize retail businesses to come in, because it's challenging out there. Interest rates have gone way up. The cost of capital is expensive. We talk about retail. We haven't, Mike made the comment about, Amazon, and retail is it's been a tough 2 decades in the brick and mortar space. And that was my comment.
Marina, is your hand up again?
Well, actually, I would like to say something regarding.
Well, before you do though,
Yeah.
if it wasn't up, I'm going to go to Pamela, then I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I just want to make a little comment. I purchased and owned and remodeled and expanded a building on 25th Avenue in San Mateo. And then I'm in a business that's very capital intensive as far as showrooms, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, you're talking about a major chunk of change to remodel the interior and maybe spiff up the exterior of a building. And I can see that being really an impediment to for somebody to want to start a small business, or maybe they have a small business and they want to expand into Mountain View. As Eric says, capital is expensive. So I would encourage I don't know whether we can make a recommendation to City Council as a mere committee, or if this is something that can be brought to something else. But I don't know if we have any of the not redevelopment, but the economic incentives from the federal government, if that could be considered to be a place where that could be looked at. And of course, you'd have to evaluate and what are the criteria, et cetera, et cetera. But I really like that idea.
I think I'm hearing some staff direction that perhaps, John, to add to the sort of list of things is a discussion of possible economic incentives, including but not limited to like retail grant programs. Do I see I see a few nodding heads. Is that something that the committee thinks would be good for the agenda, upcoming agendas? Not seeing any violent waving of the hand, so we'll put that on the list. Marina?
I just wanted to mention that tomorrow we have at the Monte Carlo, we have a meeting with the residents and businesses, business owners, so that there's going to be like a, like a Q&A kind of a setup where local residents can kind of meet and greet with the owners. The owners can represent their business, introduce themselves for a few minutes, and just kind of, there's going to be some food. And so spread the word. That's all I can say.
Right, I imagine Kira was going to talk about that's from 6 to 8.
Yes, correct. Yeah, from 6 to 8 tomorrow night.
So I will be there. Hopefully others will come and do spread the word.
Oh, there's Kira.
Yep.
I'm just going to add to that to do with the events that is going to be happening. But also, interestingly, of the retailers who are coming, it is often is the retailers, I'm sorry, the merchants who are coming, it is retailers and services who actually responded the most to be talking. And so do spread the word. We want as much of the community as possible. But what's interesting with that is when saying, tell the community your story, let them know you're here, let them know how to support you. Those are the businesses that are coming forward and saying, yes, we need the community to know about us. So just food for thought on ways to attract retailers to downtown.
Pamela, so your hand back up?
Yeah, so just one more comment. If you remember when the community outreach was conducted by the city about what do we want downtown Mountain View to look like, and there was a strong desire to have viable retail. And I think we need to not lose sight of that the community does want retail in downtown for the communications and direct meetings and the survey.
And I will say this, having been through this battle a number of times, and every time I go in and talk to Juan at Ava's, everybody wants a grocery store, but some of the most ardent supporters still shop at Walmart because it's cheaper. And so wanting and using are not the same. Kara, are you hand raised or?
Yes, I was going to echo exactly what you said, which is Juan and also other retailers downtown. It's the same thing where we hear, that people say they want, but they ask, well, why aren't they coming in? And they show, statistics on all the online places that all of Northern California does. And they zero in on Mountain View and they're like, we do 3 times more than anywhere else. And I don't know where they're getting that, but the point is that we want retail. We have to support retail. And we actually have to give them business if we want them to survive downtown.
Yep. Pamela, something new, or we don't need to keep the debate going.
Well, then maybe I'll not make my comment then.
John, anything else on 6.2 before we go back? I'm going to open that to the public, but is there any member of the public that wanted to address the Castro Street update?
Not seeing any hands.
All right, we will close 6.2 and we will move back to Edgar at 6.1.
Yeah, apologies. I know I cut off there earlier today. I'm just trying to figure out where exactly I froze. Everyone just froze around me and I kept talking and then realized no one was listening.
Yeah, I know you had finished up sort of at, you had moved on to the villa
Yes.
street facade, and you've
Correct.
done that one.
You were
okay.
at 707 to 737 Villa Street.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, so that there is a proposed facade modification on those on that building there. And then I also wanted to highlight, and I don't know if it's highlighted when I was gone, but our planning manager, Eric, is working, or I should say, finished a staff report that will be going tomorrow to the Environmental Planning Commission. And that is pertaining to setting a cap on office space in the downtown in general. And that would, if approved or recommended for approval by Planning Commission, it would go to City Council. And at that point, it would become official and it would be in place for up to 2 years to 2024. I have not read the staff report completely, but this is in response to the state bill that will be in effect starting in January, which substantially limits parking requirements to half, or I should say no minimum parking requirements per state law. And particularly that bill is AB 2097. And this will give enough time to the city to evaluate the job housing imbalance, how it may possibly impact small businesses in downtown. And again, this is going to Planning Commission tomorrow. And depending on their recommendation, that will be taken to City Council for final action.
Okay. Anything else, Edgar?
Oh, that's the agenda is posted, so the report is up if anyone wants to go online and read it.
All right. We already had public input on your item, Pamela.
John last month said that the hotel project, Robert Green, that if they didn't get their permit extension done or get something filed with the city, that they might have to start all over again. What's the update on that? That's on the Hope Street.
Yeah, John, do you have a update?
No other update other than their planning entitlement does expire November 27th. If they don't secure their building entitlement, they will need to refile for a planning entitlement to move forward with their project.
And I will add on to that, John, that this new proposed cap on office space would not impact projects that are entitled. So this action that may be, or the recommendation that would be taken by Planning Commission tomorrow to City Council wouldn't directly impact that project. Obviously, they would have to resubmit, depending on when they resubmit. If they don't get that permit, they may get caught up in the downtown precise plan phase 1 update, which is going to require that they do a few tweaks to the design of the building.
All right, Jamil?
Yeah, Edgar, do you have any information on business on Miller Street? I believe it's 845 where Sweet Honey used to be. There's no sign on it.
No, so let's see, what was the address? Let me go ahead and.
I believe it's 845 next to 833, the first block.
845 Bella.
It used to be Sweet Honey.
Okay, no, I can definitely provide an update to John, and he can send it out to everyone, or I think that'll be quicker than waiting until next month to give you an update.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to item 6.3, which is the AB 361 resolution for remote meetings. I think this is what we've been doing every month just to keep this going. I think I heard from the city manager that in February, the city is rescinding the emergency declaration. I'm not certain how that affects whether we can continue to do this. My guess is probably not, but I suspect we probably want to keep meeting virtually as long as we can.
Well, and just to share with the committee, what we're kind of hearing is that council would be going back in person at the beginning of the year is kind of what the thinking is. So that action might happen a little bit earlier than what the governor taking action on the emergency declaration, because everything's kind of tiered off the state of California emergency declaration. That tiers off the county's emergency declaration to us.
Right. Pamela?
I attended the Mauna Loma Rock Street neighborhood meeting last week, and I understood the city manager to say that meetings would still be held virtually until the end of 2023. Maybe I misheard her, maybe she misspoke.
I think council is considering hybrid meetings. Is what that entails, not to be meeting virtually, exclusively virtually through 2023.
Maybe you could give us an update on that, and if you could clarify that for us, not right this moment, but later on.
I think what I would say is what's relevant is how it impacts our committee, not what's going on with the city council and stuff like that. So I think we don't need a briefing on the entire virtual organization, just whether we can continue to meet virtually or need to start getting back together in person, which then brings up something later in the agenda. That being said, we do, if we want to continue to meet virtually, just irrespective of what the council does during the emergency, we still need to re-adopt the resolution. So is there a motion? Well, first, is there any public input on this issue? You're on mute, John. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any hands raised at the
Okay.
on this item.
And then is there a motion to adopt the AB 361 resolution? Moved by Mary Ann. Is there a second? Seconded by Pamela. John, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Let me flip back to the right page here, sorry. Committee member Cormier,
Approved.
Gupta, Keith,
Approved.
Lang,
Approved.
Lynn,
Approved.
thank you. Pascal,
Approved.
Shake,
Approved.
Yen,
Approved.
Vice Chair Baird,
Aye.
and Chair Kasperlak.
Aye. Sounds like that motion passes. And then moving on, item 6.4, 2022 city-sponsored events. And I think this is Maureen.
Yes, she will be giving the presentation. It's all yours.
Welcome, Maureen. Fire away.
First, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent, awesome. Well, we're still recovering over here from Monster Bash this weekend, which was very busy in Ringstorff Park. But we're already moving on. In 4 weeks, we have our tree lighting downtown. So that'll be on Monday, December 5th, 5:30 start time. All the traditional elements that the community knows and loves, but then some tweaks this year. Some of them are still in the planning process, so I'm not going to share them yet, just in case they don't go through. But one big thing is we are actually going to move the stage onto Castro Street, so right in front of the optometry business, Castro and Mercy. So something pretty exciting. This hopefully will give us a bigger space to witness the tree lighting and hopefully give everybody a little bit more room than on the plaza. But like I said, all the traditional elements of the lighting of the tree, visit from Santa, and then the community performances. And then something we started last year was the holidays around the world. We are intending to bring back the holidays around the world as an element, tons of crafts, the train. And like I said, there's a couple other things we've got up our sleeves that we're planning. So hopefully it'll be a nice surprise to all.
Yeah, so Maureen, this is a comment, I think it was last year with, it's like overflow into the street and some little booths and recreation stuff that really opened up the affair and really made it feel more of a community event than a concert.
Completely. And that's the same idea. So still closing off Castro Street. We've got our notice to businesses going out soon, hopefully this week or next. So still from California to church, but then allowing for the Kaiser drive-through. And yeah, it's going to be a party for sure. And I can take questions in between. if that's okay with the chair.
Kira?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in conjunction with that, with the downtown, some downtown businesses are planning to extend hours or have things happening as well, to invite community to come down and enjoy our businesses after the tree lighting.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
All right.
That's one of the reasons we don't have any food trucks or outside vendors come to tree lighting, is really to kind of promote residents to go downtown, enjoy a meal with their family, either before or after the tree lighting ceremony.
Maureen, before you go on, Kira, one thing you might at the DBA is sort of like a pre-lighting thing for some of the restaurants, get people out there early rather than late. A lot of restaurants will do early bird sorts of specials, and that might be a good evening if, get in there early with the kids so that, 8 o'clock, everybody's not saying, oh, we got to get the kids home to bed now.
Mhm.
So
That's a really good point. One thing I'll also say to spread the word in supporting our retailers, you can also go holiday shopping. And we do have retailers downtown, and that is a really good day to do so. So we will do that as well.
sorry, Maureen.
Oh, no. This is the recreation way, So I'll mention the other thing we have coming downtown that I think this committee will be very excited about is the return of Arbor Day. So we are looking at that on March 11th in Pioneer Park. We are going to do Arbor Day a little differently. That's just the way things are now, since we have the opportunity to think fresh, but we'll still have our tree demonstration and tree walks and proclamation from the mayor. But we're looking into a tree guardian program, inviting booths, but no information as in like your traditional table in the front and brochures. If you're coming to present information, you better have an interactive element to it. And we're just really trying to get more engaging activities. It's not just like a volunteer fair type thing. It's, we are having a volunteer fair, but the Arbor Day will be a little bit more interactive. Marina.
Just quickly, is there any plans on decorating Castro for the holidays? I went for the DBA, we went down from, did a little spread the word kind of on with the businesses, and actually a few of them asked me, are we going to, they thought I was a city representative, but I was with the DBA. Are we going to actually do some holiday festive decor on Castro Street to bring more traffic? So I'm not sure. I said, if they're willing to do it on their budget, they can do it. But I don't know if the city has any plans on doing that. So do you have any?
I know we plan to do what has been our past practice in the medians of the 400 and 500 block. Our parks crew has these like light up penguins and things like that. So really kind of a nighttime element that'll still continue on those two blocks. And then a couple of years ago, we bought large wreaths that we put on those archways throughout downtown, those alley archways. I believe we're still planning. Quite a few of them were stolen. So, and that's kind of been our thing, is that things that we've been leaving up have been going missing, and we don't always have the budget to replace it. So we tend to focus all of our efforts on the tree lighting celebration in terms of like larger decor, but then we do take it away just so we have it for a while. So like I said, those wreaths on those alleyways, I believe we're bringing those back, and then the light up elements on the 400 and 500 blocks.
Are we doing the holiday lighting on the street trees? Sometimes they stayed on all year, sometimes they went off. I don't know where we are, but the trees are getting big now. So what's the deal with the tree light, the street tree lighting on Castro?
They're on.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're on now.
Is that permanent now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Marina, your hand's still up. Is it still up, and Pamela?
Yeah, I can't remember. Do we have pennant banners to put on the street poles? I can't remember if we've done that before in the past. Holiday banners.
No, the only ones we've had are the ones for MVCPA. And I think there's a conversation to get those replaced, but it is part of a larger, we are over the 10,000 mark. It is a bid process. So that it's a possibly, but not right now.
Great. Okay,
Okay.
anything
All
else,
right.
Maureen?
I'll just give out a couple things. They're not necessarily downtown. Well, some of them are. So we'll have our summer camp fair that's coming back in February. That'll be at the community center. We also have our senior resource fair coming back in May at the senior center. And then just as we're planning for this summer, the return of Kids Stock, that's on the third Saturday of the month, starting in May, June, and July. Concerts on the Plaza, we're expecting to bring back every Friday, June through September. Really energetic, not your typical singer-songwriter, but more energetic musical acts with the larger A band on the first Friday. And then we have our summer outdoor movie night series that will return. We do have one at Eagle Park. And then National Night Out returning, potentially downtown again. And we need to confirm that with PD and Fire. But we've got a lot of really exciting things. And I think we have a lot of community organizations that are going to be reserving the plaza for different cultural events. I think I can't really speak for them, but our multicultural engagement program is working, I believe, on a Chinese New Year celebration, either in 23 or 24. So hopefully, I think that's all still in the talks, but that's the plan.
Great. Pamela?
One more question. You didn't mention the multicultural festival that we did last spring,
Yeah,
May?
it's a biannual.
Okay.
So it is 22, and then it's scheduled right now for 2024, unless the budget or desire changes.
Because that was
the
a
plan.
nice event. We
Yes.
enjoyed that. And then you said the volunteer fair. Do you have a date on that?
Yeah, it's I don't have it in front of me. We always coordinate with National Volunteer Week. So it's going to be the Saturday before that. I believe it's around like the 16th of April, something around there. Saturday before, whatever that week is.
Maureen,
Okay, thank you.
They're still doing like the German markets or things like that.
I believe there is a permit in place. I believe they're going to continue with the Caltrain. I do not have the Caltrain. I don't have dates though.
Maureen, just one other thing. It's because of the Ped Mall, is the spring parade a thing of the past?
I believe so. So we're still looking at ways that we can continue the spirit of a spring celebration. So this last year we did spring park pop-ups where we brought a Bubblesmith and games to different parks throughout the city, really bringing kind of that spring element to residents. I don't know if we'll do that again this year, but we're trying to think of ways to still celebrate spring without, yes, that parade. We can't do that parade element any longer.
Well, we could, it would just be shorter.
Squished, a little squished.
Right. Kira?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that with the multicultural and other events that are happening downtown, one of the things that the DBA has been doing with the city is coupons that can be given out to participants that come. And they've been fairly successful. And now we also do with other DBA events, for instance, on Halloween, we also gave that out, even though it wasn't with the city. So I just wanted to point that out because that partnership is really working, but also the coupons are really working. So just letting the committee know that as well.
Yeah. It's been a fun collaboration.
We'll open this item up to the public and then I'll come back to you, Maria.
Okay.
Don, any members of the public who want to address this?
I'm not seeing any hands raised.
All right, we'll close public input. Maria, last question, it looks like.
I just wanted to ask here how Taste of Mountain View is going, sales and whatnot.
We would like help spreading the word. Sales are not quite as high as they were for the last one. It is going well, but it is not, last time we were sold out, weeks before the event. This time we are not sold out quite yet. So we would like help spreading the word if you know people that want to come down.
course, that could also be a factor of time of year, June
Yes.
versus November. So,
This is true.
right. All right. Hey, thanks, Maureen. Welcome to
Thank
stick
you.
around if you want. We're going to now move on to new business, starting with 7.1 in the public safety in downtown Mountain View. And we have the MVPD here with us, Matthew.
Guy, thanks for having me. So yeah, I just wanted to go over a few things of what we've been seeing in the downtown area. One of the main concerns that came out that was brought to us, really, it's been a few years where we've seen an uptick of auto burglaries in the downtown area. With a collaborative effort of volunteers, as well as the police department and chamber, there was a downtown ambassador program that was put together. Also, during that time, there was an increase in working on the lighting, increasing the lighting and some of the landscaping to make it a little bit harder for the criminal activity to occur, really by somewhat hiding when they're committing the activity. And the ambassador program really was not so much traditional enforcement, but a lot of education and a lot of volunteers that were in downtown and just really highly visible. What we saw was a pretty drastic decrease in auto burglaries in the downtown area. When we looked at it a little bit further, we also saw just a decrease in overall crime in the downtown area. So the approach was highly effective. Based on that, what we are going to be doing is also going into the holiday season is staffing officers and CSOs and really any volunteers too in the program going forward in the holiday season because it was so successful. So some of the people here, thank you for assisting in that as well, and really a great approach to a collaborative effort of not just policing, but also showing that we're going to work together, especially in the downtown area, when this crime is occurring. One other topic that I want to go over just a little bit of what we saw in the downtown area and some of the questions that have came to me was some of the unhoused that are in the downtown area as well. And we have taken a similar approach on that in the downtown area or some of the unhoused. We have a community service outreach officer, Officer McPherson, who is amazing with getting outreach and in working with individuals, whether or not it's substance or housing. And then, so some of those, it takes a little bit of time, but we have a number of successful stories of individuals who were primarily in the downtown area who have since been given resources and housing. And so Officer McPherson works also with our behavioral service unit, which has a clinician and then other officers who are trained on our crisis negotiation team. So identifying individuals who might be in the downtown area who need, whether it's substance abuse or mental health, and trying to get them the services as well as housing. So that's really been our approach to a number of different policing challenges, which we've seen. It's not just the law enforcement side, but also working with the community and with different outreach programs as well. So really want to say thank you again to everybody who was assisted, and going forward, if we can continue to start to work together. And on those lines, what I always ask is let's just if you see something, if there's something out of the ordinary or a possibility of criminal activity, just to let us know, because if we don't know about it, it's really hard for us to do anything. But if we do know that there is, criminal activity or even just an individual who might need a little bit of extra help that's in the downtown area, to reach out to us. And we don't just do just policing and arrest people. We try to do really a holistic approach to what is the real issue that is occurring and using our resources to be able to solve those and help individuals out as well as needed.
So quick question. We got a report, or I got a report from somebody, and it's a little ironic because we're going to be talking about busking and music in downtown at some point in the future, but somebody reported that there was a street musician playing on one of the corners, probably somewhere within the pedestrian mall. But the person also appeared to possibly be homeless, had a whole bunch of trash with him, was, you know, so it wasn't sort of the type of music that people want to see on the street. It was somebody out there. What's the appropriate response for people? Is that call like 311, or what is people supposed to do in that? You know, not that it'll be a big arrest, but okay, buddy, you know, we got to move along here. This isn't allowed, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, as a police response, what we would typically do is have our community outreach officer contact them and look at what's occurring and offer resources. And that'd be our first approach, is to offer resources and really to give information of the resources that we have. We have a lot of people that come in town that are used to a different type of approach. So when they do see that there are some resources that we're going to be there, and we also aren't just going to ignore that we're out there sometimes just to say hello and get to know them a little bit, and then kind of find out what the best approach is based on that initial conversation.
And if a resident notices this and wants to report it, what's the number they should call? Just the regular business line at the PD, or?
Correct, or a non-emergency line. They can contact us. They can go online and report that as well. So if you go online and just do a report that comes out of the non-housed or anything along those lines, it'll go directly to our unit, our neighborhood and events services unit, who's primarily handles that. So that's probably the best way, is to report that online to us, and it goes to the appropriate individual.
Great. Maria?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, but if I'm walking downtown Mountain View and seeing something that's kind of not very untasteful, by the time I go online, and you know, it might be over with. If I wanted it addressed like right away, what do I do?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
If there's something going on that really should be stopped immediately, not really criminal, but maybe kind of defecating, which I've seen on weekends downtown in Lancaster Street, who do I contact?
It would be the police department. We can send it to our non-emergency line, and I'll put that on there on the chat as well.
Okay, so what would I do as a citizen? Would I dial 911 and say this is not emergency?
No, I'll give it's a non-emergency line that we'll have for the police department. And I'll put that on the chat here so you can have that.
Okay. And also, does Mountain View, I guess I should know this, do we have a loitering code? Not loitering? This weekend I was in Santa Cruz, and at every major stop sign, there was a sign said no loitering. And there were no people at the lights begging. So I was wondering if Mountain View had such an ordinance.
I do not, to my knowledge, I do not think so. I do not know.
So they thought it was effective. Obviously, there weren't people at the lights begging that there used to be.
Yeah, so and pretty much for the most part for us legally, if they're not impeding, so for somebody going in and out of the business, if they're not obstructing, to be able to do the day-to-day, there isn't a lot that we can do for enforcement.
I mean,
I got one real. Are you done, Maria?
They could be asked to leave the intersection if that sign's there, correct? I mean, not as a citizen.
Yeah, we do not have a specific ordinance for that.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question is, I think the governor signed, and I don't know when it takes effect, no more jaywalking. Jaywalking is no longer a crime in California.
That is correct.
Okay, Jamil.
Yeah, just to segue what you were saying, Mike, Matthew, thanks for the report. My question was that on Villa Street, the signal is working now. And we put the signs, we put the guard, but some people still crossing in. I saw a near miss accident with the pedestrian almost the other day. Do you have any stats on it? If it's working, or do we need anything else to kind of tell people that it's working now?
So Jamil, we've been out. So this is a combination, our Public Works Transportation team and PDC on the enforcement side. But we have been communicating to the public. We've also been pushing out information to the business community, and we're also posting signs at the intersection. You know, unfortunately, people have gotten very used to walking out into the street. So there's not only the obligation of drivers to be more cognizant, but people also need to look up or, you know, when they get to a corner, stop, pause, assess it, and is the signal working? But we have been putting signage up. And so this has been a phased approach. Initially, we were going to put all the lights back on at the same time. And after that first day with Dana Street, we realized we can't do that. There's a learned behavior that's happened over time. So we're going through a phasing approach. And so there are public traffic engineers out there monitoring it. And similar to Dana, there were some near misses. People got really used to just seeing a red light, stop and go. So there's a little bit of an education that's going on. The light just got turned on at the second intersection today. And we'll tackle the next intersection after we get through kind of the assessment of this next intersection. But the long-term goal is to have it be somewhat of a signalized intersection. And once again, the long-term goal is in the pedestrian mall sections is people would actually be crossing in the middle of the street, not on the corners, but that's many years out. But we'd actually narrow the intersection so it's really tight for cars, and then people would cross in the middle of the intersection.
Thank you.
John?
All right. Not seeing any more questions. Open this up for public comment. John, any raised hands out there? All right, we'll close public comment and bring it back. And anything else before we let you go, Matthew?
Yeah, Mike. I
Jamil?
just wanted to add one thing, you know, that the Downtown Ambassador Program, you know, Pamela and we're doing it. It's a lot of fun. I recommend for other people, other committee member, you know. It's really, I mean, community members really appreciate it a lot, you know.
And you get to wear a cool vest.
Yeah, actually, I have it here. I have it here like this.
Right. Woohoo! Happy Halloween, Jamil.
Yeah.
Is that the one the city gave you, or is that your own?
Yeah, but because nobody was available, they say just keep it. Then when
I was
you
gonna
need
say,
next time.
I didn't get to keep mine, but mine was so big, I wouldn't have wanted to
All
keep it.
right. Okay. We got some people that need to mosey on, so we'll see if we can't move on. So we will now move on to item 7.2, which is the meeting schedule for 2023. And John, why don't you start with that one?
Sure. So per the K2 policy, the downtown committee needs to adopt a meeting schedule. So this being the first year scheduling for next year, I just kind of took what's been done in the past and figured out the months that the committee historically has not met, and then developed the schedule based upon the first Tuesday of the month at 10 a.m. So what you have on the agenda packet is the following dates. So there are no meetings for January, July, and August. Mainly January because of the furlough that goes on at the end of December, creates problems given the timing of this committee. And then to give you a break during the summer, July and August. So the meeting dates would be February 7th, March 7th, April 4th, May 2nd, June 6th, September 5th, October 3rd, November 7th, and December 5th. And this would require action by the committee to adopt this. We would need to take this to vote.
So I do have a quick question, and I think, you know, traditionally before the pandemic, this committee used to meet, and Jamil, you probably remember this best, or Mary, but it was like a 7:30 or 8 a.m. meeting so that it wasn't in the middle of the workday. 10 a.m.
8 o'clock.
people have to get up and drive into town for an in-person meeting. 10 is really inconvenient for business owners and that sort of thing. And so I think we probably need to go with the assumption that we'll be going back to in-person meetings. I don't know that state law is going to allow us to continue to meet as a virtual committee. And so the real question is, you know, not so much the dates, but the time. And we need to put that into whatever it is that we do. Now, one question I have for you, John, is could we adopt this at the next meeting, and could we get clarification on whether there will be any possibilities of continuing to be, with all due respect to the purpose of this committee, it is a rather insignificant committee in terms of, you know, public engagement and everything like that. And are there any provisions in state law that will allow us to continue to meet virtually, irrespective of the COVID emergency? And so that might be going back to the city attorney or finding out and seeing if there's anything we could do, because otherwise I think we have to go back to early morning meeting time.
So I like the suggestion of the chair's comment. I would prefer to have the committee take action on establishing the dates and time at this point in time. I'm happy to follow up with the clerk and bring this back at the next committee if we need to amend or append the action taken, but just to make sure that we have it memorialized. And if there is no action required based upon the feedback, we can keep it as is. But if needing to append it or amend it at the next meeting, that will allow me the time to sufficiently vet it with attorney and city clerks.
All right. Thoughts, comments, or name from anybody?
This is Mary. I previously attended.
I can't see who that. Oh, is that you, Mary? Sorry.
I do remember when the meetings were 8 o'clock, and that was fine. But now that the meeting's at 10, it's actually way easier for me as because, you know, kids have drop off time. Most kids who go to school drop off is between, you know, 7:45 to about 8:15. I think some schools don't even start till 8:30. So I don't know, just given the makeup of the committee now versus before, if 10 a.m. is actually a better time versus before. And also, I know it's the middle of the day, but also like it's less traffic. If we have to meet in person, 10 significantly, you know, less trafficy than 8. So just something to consider, but I'm happy to adopt all the dates for 2023.
David?
Yes, in the past, when it was in person, was there ever a kind of a dial-in option if like voice conferencing?
There
Okay.
was, but nobody ever used it. It was a very poor backup option because
Yeah.
you would call online and can barely hear what anybody's saying because there's like 7 people in the room and they're all talking over each other, and
Right.
and
Right.
it's very difficult to chime in.
Okay.
There are some provisions for state law if you're traveling,
Yeah.
but not as a routine matter.
Okay.
Mike, there was couple of times, I think few people were traveling and you have to post everything
Right.
outside and all that stuff. Yeah.
Notice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the only real legal option.
Okay. I mean, I can work it out with, so I'm a teacher, and so I can work it out with my school to be available for some of these things. Generally, earlier is better. But like literally, I have to call a sub to cover my class during the meeting. So just a different perspective, but I can figure out how to make it work.
Marina?
I was gonna second Mary. I also like the 10 o'clock or in the evening when everybody's back home from work, you know, I'm like going crazy. But you know, like 5, 6 o'clock PM also would work. for me personally. I do like the 10 o'clock. There is a lot of, I think, bustle happening early in the morning. So I don't think we would even have a lot of public engagement, not that we do as is, but, you know, in case somebody wants to join us, I think it would be either better later at night or like right now, what we're doing, you know, so.
Well, and I know Eric was probably the one that was not anywhere in Mountain View. I think he's down from more like Los Gatos or something and wasn't coming into Mountain View. So it might have affected him the most. But I think he's resigning from the committee. So with all of that said, well, first, let's go to the public and see if there's any public input.
I was gonna say one thing, Marina, to your point, when we was at 8, I think we never had any, I mean, we had like one visitor.
I can't hear you, Mary.
Mary, you're all garbled.
Marble.
Damn it. Sorry.
You may want to go camera off and see if that helps with some of the bandwidth.
I was gonna say, when we had it, the meeting at 8 a.m., like nobody ever came. I'm not nobody, like we would get one guest in that. And then, so actually, since the meeting has moved to 10, I've been pleasantly surprised at the level of public engagement. Even though it still seems low, it's actually up from previously.
So let's see, John, is there any public?
There is public. If you'd like to comment on this item, feel free to
Yes.
raise your hand or *6. I'm not seeing any desire for
Okay,
public comment.
we will close public comment and bring it back. And John would like a motion. So if somebody, now would be a good time to make a motion about next year's schedule, which is currently proposed as it is in the staff report, with three months with no meeting, and then 10 a.m. like we've been doing. It probably in person, but to be determined. Pamela?
So moved, or do I have to read the whole thing, John?
It's not an ordinance, so you don't have to read the
Okay,
ordinance.
all right. So I propose that we follow the recommendation in 7.2.
Second.
Seconded by Mary. All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, John, do you want to call the vote roll?
Sure. Committee member Cormier. Gupta. Keith.
Aye.
Lang.
Aye.
Lynn. I think we lost
John,
you.
you're starting to garble too.
Sorry, Pascal.
Aye.
Shake.
Aye.
Yeah.
That Baird?
No, I said Yen.
Oh, sorry. Yes, approve.
Baird
Aye.
and Casper Zach.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, we got our orders for next month or next year. So that closes item 7.0. Next item is item 8, which is just general staff of committee comments. Are there any comments, Pamela?
Two, this may not be something that we can get a response on from John. We have a member who hasn't attended a meeting in maybe missed 4, 5, 6 meetings in a row. So what happens to a committee member who does not make meetings?
Council is informed of that, and it becomes basically a voluntary resignation. We are in contact with Mr. Gupta about this, and it looks like it will be a voluntary resignation. There's some time conflicts with this meeting time now. So, and so hope is to get a new appointment, as some of the members are up for reappointment. So as part of that process, reappointing for a new new committee member.
And when are the interviews? Can you disclose that?
November
No.
21st.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I hadn't heard of something else. Okay, all right. And then as far as a report, the Mountain View Historical Association will be conducting a walking tour on Sunday, November 27th at 2 p.m. and meet in front of the train station. And it'll be about an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and I'll be conducting that. And we will not have a tour in December.
All right, Kira?
Just on reports, we do have some events coming up tomorrow. As we've discussed, is going to be the Meet the Business Owners event. Next week on the 9th is going to be the Taste of Mountain View. Stay tuned for our holiday activities, but we are going to be having some kind of voluntary promotion that will go with the tree lighting. We are tentatively looking at some kind of Santa-thon, so we'll let you know in December how that happens with having Santas come to Mountain View. And just before and after the holidays, we are looking also having an elf on a shelf. And so that's a way to encourage people to go to downtown Mountain View businesses for maybe last minute holiday shopping, but also after the holidays, because often there's a slump then. And so it's kind of a way to just get them to come out if they're there with their families on the 27th or 28th and have a nice fun scavenger hunt and also give our businesses some love.
All right, seeing nothing else, I think that's it. So we will stand adjourned until December. And hopefully we'll see a bunch of you tomorrow night. See more of you at the Taste of Mountain View. And it's a little early for happy Thanksgiving, but hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And we are adjourned. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Happy voting day, everybody.
Great, next week.